Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 was a game that had an unbelievable amount of hype, being Sony's highest viewed video in the last 2 years. I know for myself it was my most anticipated game in years. I kept up with every new thing that the game had to offer, and broke down everything until the release of the game. Now that I've completed the game in the way that it was meant to be released, I can safely give my thoughts on it. So, did it live up to my expectations, and did it fix any concerns I had going into it? Well, obviously you have to watch the video to figure out those answers. If it wasn't clear enough, I'm going to be spoiling literally everything about this game. So if you haven't finished the game, then get out and come back later. But those who have, let's continue. Like many of Sony's games, Spider-Man 2 is heavily reliant on its story, which is why I won't start with the story. Spider-Man 2 really makes you feel like you can do whatever a spider can. So, as you'd expect with any sequel, it builds off its predecessor, and when a while ago I made a video discussing my concerns for the game, when it was first revealed, I was worried that the gameplay in Traversal would stay relatively similar with not many changes. Hell, I didn't even ask for the web wings, as I thought that they would make an already simple Traversal system even simpler. Hell, I didn't even think we needed the ability to change the difficulty as swinging, as I didn't think it was something Insomniac would care for. But this game said hold my web shooters and implemented literally all of these options. And it quite literally changed my perspective on the previous games. All these new options fundamentally changed this traversal in a way that makes Insomniac's previous traversal systems look like nothing. Insomniac understands what creates a perfect Spider-Man experience, a traversal with a sense of challenge and difficulty that isn't hard to master, but just hard enough to have you take time out of your days to master it. Turning swing assist off means that the game will no longer help you when shooting out a web line, so now you actually have to focus and steer yourself because it creates a more physics-based swinging. Spider-Man feels like a man with weight when the assist is off. If you swing too low, you'll end up stopping on the ground, so the game gives you an incentive to get better at swinging and timing so you can keep your momentum as you traverse. One thing I will say though is I wish instead of Spider-Man completely stopping when they make contact with the ground, instead I wish you can hold the web line and run on the ground with it so you don't have to start a whole new web line. The floating issue is still there, but it's not that present, especially when the swing assist is off. So Insomniac gets a pass on that, but not that kind of pass. I mean like a pass, you know? Well, to create an even more difficult experience, Insomniac added fall damage, something that Spider-Man games should have because we get beautiful moments like this. Now, it is optional to have it on or off like the swing assist, so if you do find it dumb and unnecessary, you can always have it off. But I will say the fall damage system is pretty weird here, especially since you can take damage from just a normal charge jump. But it's not really the biggest problem, but it's there. I'm just happy that this game really advises you, especially with these settings on, that you need to focus on how you're swinging. It really makes you question if I shoot a web line out now or later or at all, because now you have more than just webs. You have the web wings, something that I was very concerned to see in the game. I didn't see the point in adding web wings, especially when the traversal system of the previous games already felt automated, like you were flying, and the web wings would have felt basically pointless and just there so you can move back and forth. But now with the addition of Queens and Brooklyn and obviously these new swing settings, there's a massive importance for the web wings, especially since the web wings can be used anywhere. It gives you a sense of freedom and creativity with the way you traverse using it. It's especially important in the new areas where buildings are much smaller and much harder to swing from. A massive concern for the web wings was that many of us thought it would pretty much be flying and make the web swinging useless, but luckily that isn't the case here. To use the web wings effectively, the game really advises you to build up speed using your swinging, but seriously, it's kind of crazy how you can build speed in this game. Something that's instantly noticeable when playing this game is that moves from the previous game are now fast as hell. But the speed can also be a consequence, as if you build too much momentum, it can be hard to control and you can just crash at the side of a building. But the web wings help to control that. In fact, the web wings cancel out a lot of problems like fall damage. If you're falling and using your web wings and hit the ground, you won't take any damage. There's also small new additions that I didn't think of but are really cool. My favorite being the corner tether, which allows you to shoot a web line near a corner to continue your momentum. Helps keep the speed and also just looks really cool. There's also the highly requested loop-de-loop, which is another cool addition that helps to add speed and hype. But it is kinda lame that you can only do one loop and you also have to be in a dive? Even if you built up enough speed and momentum, it feels weirdly limiting and it's sort of restricting, but of course it feels and looks cool. But this next one may be the greatest traversal addition, the slingshot. This baby is the only reason I can gain the amount of speed that I do when swinging. I purposely break my swing sometimes just so I can slingshot again because it's just so cool. And unlike the loop-de-loop, this baby can be done anywhere and isn't restricted at all. This is hands down my favorite traversal edition and I don't see anything topping it. But you know, Insomniac, it would also be really cool to be able to do it on the side of buildings just like the TASM films, cause God forbid no Spider-Man game can ever have good wall crawling. Air tricks also make a return in this game, being used to recharge your boost and jump while swinging, and just like all the other traversal editions, you're advised to use it. And it's also just cool, like imagine swinging and pulling out a Rubik's Cube, bro. To be honest, the only thing Insomniac is missing is the ability to climb your own web line, shoot out 2 web lines, and run with your web on the ground. And that would pretty much be it. If they add those, then this traversal system would be fantastic. Now, if you've played the 2018 game, this combat will feel very familiar to you, but there are enough changes, big and small, that still make the experience very new and different. The basic Spider-Man light and heavy attacks are pretty much the same from the previous games, so again, if you played the previous games, you'll instantly get used to this combat. A positive is some of the moves that had to be unlocked in the previous game, like the swing kick, are immediately given to you. Now, let's actually get on to bigger changes, things like aerial combat and the web pull, which have been significantly improved in this game. The web pull now has a variety of uses. It brings enemies much closer than it did in 2018, but now you also have the ability to yank the enemies left and right and slam an enemy onto the ground. Yanking an enemy's weapon has an input now which is much faster and has a much faster animation than it did in 2018, and it's far more important and useful here. Aerial combat has also seen quite the upgrade as well. You can slam enemies off the ground, which is my favorite addition to the aerial moves. You can also slide under them mid-air, which you can use to combine the slam or the swing kick. It's all really cool stuff that doesn't revamp the aerial combat, but gives it enough of an upgrade where it's just all cool new stuff. But hey, Insomniac, if Green Goblin is your next main villain, and he's mainly a villain on a glider, just maybe you can give a shot at the Web of Shadows swing kick and web strike, you know, I'm just saying. Gadgets have seen a complete overhaul now, being more streamlined and accessible. There's a much smaller selection of gadgets, and the wheel is also gone. Gadgets are now activated using R1 and one of the face buttons. There's been a bit of a split between the community whether or not the removal of the wheel was a good idea, and where do I stand when it comes to that? Thank God. I absolutely despise the wheel. I always found it so annoying and tedious, and even though yes, I abused the hell out of it since it paused the game for a couple of seconds, but now that game speed is an option, I don't really need it anymore since there's a shortcut to just slow the game down whenever I want. But what about the gadgets that were given to us? Well, this time around the gadgets are less web-based and more based on all the aspects of combat. The web grabber is used to pull enemies in a surrounding area together. On top of that, there's an upgrade which can also pull some of the objects in the environment as well. The upshot is used to bring all the enemies into the air, which is pretty neat because I really enjoy chaining my aerial moves on enemies and seeing how long I can keep them in the air. The concussion burst is the weakest of the four, mainly being used in the later stages of the game and doesn't do much other than stun enemies. And finally, the ricochet web, which is probably the funniest in my opinion, because you can instantly end an encounter within seconds using them. And I'm not even joking, like watch this.
That wasn't too rough.
I know this might be a controversial take, but I much prefer these gadgets over the previous games. These gadgets, even though similar to many of the 2018 gadgets, they feel much more streamlined and feel like they have a purpose of combat. I also appreciate that they only scaled it down to 4 gadgets, making combat even more challenging. But I think Insomniac should have gone the safe route with the gadgets and just given us all of them. Like, it's just as simple as allowing us to pick our 4 favorites and selecting them just like our abilities, and they're problem solved. Overall, the gadgets are still really fun in this game, but I understand why Insomniac didn't bring back all of them, because again, these gadgets are so broken, you can end an entire crime just using the web grabber and ricochet webs. The biggest addition to combat are your abilities. Well, the biggest addition to Peter, to be honest. Your abilities are activated using L1 and one of the face buttons. Unlike the gadgets, the abilities are on a cooldown and can be recharged faster by attacking enemies and successfully dodging enemies, but there are upgrades that can reduce the cooltime. As the story goes on, you get more and more abilities, and they look really cool, but I would be a liar to say that it's all perfect. The mechanical arms were one of my biggest worries leading up to the game's release, but the more footage we got on it, the more it grew on me. But when I finally got my hands on it, I was actually very surprised by them. The arms feel very fluid and fun, and at times I find myself in the post-game using them more than the symbiote abilities, but I genuinely can't go without noting the fact that their inclusion in the game kind of feels useless. By the time the symbiote comes into the story, they're never seen again. They get overshadowed by the symbiote so heavily that by the time the game is over and you go to the abilities menu, you kind of have that moment of like, oh yeah, right! These were in the game. You're given the arms again for like a small portion of the game once Peter takes the symbiote off, but once you get the anti-venom, you get the new abilities and all the returning symbiote abilities. The abilities are really down to preference, especially when it comes to the arms, but a small nitpick I do have, which isn't the game's fault, is that these arms just look really goofy on a lot of these suits, especially the classic looking suits. It's obviously when you're playing the game you're not paying attention to it a lot, but when you are, it gets a bit jarring and sometimes it can be a bit off-putting. And it's not only the arms but the symbiote tendrils, especially once you get the anti-venom. Everyone and their grandma has already made this joke, but it just looks like Peter is shooting a shit ton of cum. But obviously the symbiote, the big thing that the game continuously marketed, which I'm gonna be honest, I have no complaints about whatsoever. They're cool and flashy, and once you get them, the sense of raw power not only can be felt on screen but in the controller. I think my biggest problem when it comes to the abilities is that you're pretty much invincible for a couple of seconds. And what I mean by that is that there's no risk and reward factor. I didn't notice this much until someone pointed it out for me, but take a look at God of War 2018. When Kratos is using a runic attack while fighting an enemy, he still takes damage when using it, and that's what I mean by risk and reward. But here, it's all reward and no risk. But where the game does reward for the risk you've taken is the parry. The parry is one of the funnest new additions to combat, mainly because I'm a sucker for a good parry in a game. The parry in this game is pretty much what you'd expect. If you time the parry window, you get rewarded, and its implementation in the game feels very refreshing, and sometimes I find myself not dodging and seeing how many attacks I can parry because, again, I'm a sucker for a good parry. But I will say sometimes the parry doesn't make sense, especially when it comes to the heavy attacks. The game makes it clear to you that these must be parried and not dodged, but for some reason you can still dodge these and you're not affected at all? It's really confusing because the game could have easily just made the enemy's attack hitbox much larger, but to make things even more confusing, the game never really states which attacks can be parried. You kind of just have to figure it out on your own, which can be really annoying. This game also includes another attack which cannot be parried called the crush attack. This attack must only be dodged, which is fine I guess. Its implementation doesn't feel very important, except for when it's used in bosses because it just feels like the game's way of telling you, don't forget we also have a dodge button. Focus has also been tweaked a bit in this game. You now have to have a full focus bar to heal, which is a simple change but is a healthy change to make the game feel more challenging. But in general, the focus bar is pretty much a copy and paste of 2018. All the suit powers from the previous game have also been removed. We now only have a dedicated power to each Spider-Man, Peter only receiving his once he gets the symbiote, and Miles having his Mega Venom Blast from his previous game. As far as these powers go, they get a pass for me. I found myself using it a lot, especially for Peter's Symbiote Surge, which is just the best, but I wish I could say the same for Miles. I never really cared for his Mega Venom Blast because his base attacks are already so broken. I only found myself using it when I faced the bane of my existence, which are these big, ugly abominations. Hell, I even forgot the ability even existed when playing as Miles. I'm just happy the ultimate abilities from the previous games were removed. Many of them were useless and only 5 of them were good, and even if we did have it, then we would pretty much be invincible. But I will say, in the next game, throw this Mega Blast away and give Miles his sword from the comics. Like, let me Jin Sakai the shit out of these enemies. Suit mods were kind of removed in this game and instead replaced with these perks that can be selected in the suit tech menu. Again, I didn't really care for the suit mods. They were a neat customization choice, but they weren't something I was begging for to return in this game. Because, again, it suffers with the same issues that the ultimate powers have. And that is that there's so many useless options, and then it becomes you reading descriptions for like so long, and then by the time you pick the one you liked, you realize all the time you were given to play is up and you have to go back to do your work. The suit tech perks are a nice replacement. It also allows for more than 3 to be equipped, and I also like how they aren't just for combat but also used for other aspects of the game. Even though it's pretty clear in some cases one skill was clearly better than the other, I still found them a neat new addition, and I find them a lot better than the suit mods. Getting on to more important things, like more enemy variety, because seriously, these Sable Guards haunt me in my dreams. And god damn it, this game has so many enemies that make the game feel much more refreshing and change the pace of combat completely. At the start of the game, you immediately notice these sand minions, which are really nice enemy types because they're not annoying but challenging enough to be a fun encounter, and the game makes it very clear to you how they can be beaten. The symbiotes are the most unique enemy type in the game because they act the most different. The green variants are very odd because they only get taken down by a shot of your web, which I only found out can be done because someone pointed it out to me while I was live streaming the game. Even though the green ones seem easy, they're fast and slippery and can catch you off guard when you least expect it. But there's also... oh no. Jokes aside, they're not the most annoying enemy at first. I thought I could only attack them after a parry, but after my first encounter, I realized I could just attack them head on. The mechanical dogs and birds provide a new challenge. The game forces you to go for the dogs first because they send out a beam which removes your abilities and they start to self-destruct once they're low. But the game gives you time to throw them to damage other nearby enemies. The birds are just the game's incentive to force you to use aerial combat, but it's not as fun because some attacks like the slam don't work similarly, unlike with other enemies. The hunters are really cool in their own unique ways. Some of them stay on high points, forcing you to dodge, which can be challenging because some of them attack you head on and force you to parry. I'm really happy Insomniac worked on the enemies in this game, especially the variety. You get a gold star for that and line leader for an entire week. But just because you got line leader doesn't mean you did everything perfectly. My other biggest gripe with this combat is when Peter gets the symbiote, literally nothing is different. And what I mean by that is Peter's base moves never change. I'll keep going back to Web of Shadows, but one thing that game did perfectly was giving the variety and differentiating base Peter and symbiote Peter. As soon as you switch, the combat is instantly different. None of the attacks are the same and feels refreshing. Here though, everything is identical down to the last minute detail. Insomniac, not only did you miss with that, but why wasn't this in the game? You guys talk about the power of the PS5, but why wasn't the ability to switch to the black suit instantly an option? And it still isn't! And I'm recording this after the New Game Plus update! I might have to rethink giving you line leader, but luckily Insomniac, cause you crazy geniuses finally fixed the boss fights, I won't take away your line leader. I can't believe I'm saying this, but finally the thing titled boss battles finally feel like boss battles. In the first game they were just set pieces with a bit of input, but now they have attack patterns, a variety of moves that require you to focus. Your attacks feel like they do something. In the previous game you had to follow the game until they made you do something, but now you can just use all the gadgets and abilities that you have. They also have health bars now, which thank God, because they make a big change and it's something I ask for. My only complaint with the bosses is the areas we fight them in. Some bosses, especially the symbiote related ones, should have happened in open areas where we can freely move and fight around the city. This complaint doesn't go for all the bosses like Lee, KRAVEN, and the Lizard, but Venom and Scream really deserved an area with much more mobility and freedom. I hate that there are invisible barriers everywhere because it's very obvious that a lot of these bosses could have easily been improved if we had massive arenas where we were free to move around the fight. The game was marketing Venom in a way that got me so hyped because it seemed like we were going to fight him all around the city. But then when we get locked at Midtown High, it just felt very video gamey. Overall, I still really like the bosses in this game, especially that opening Sandman boss. I just love that a lot of these bosses are just grand in the story. But moving on to something not very grand, stealth. Where do I even start? Well, I guess for starters, I'm not really the most stealthy guy. I only ever use stealth when the game forces me to, but there are minor tweaks that I've seen people complain about, but I don't get why. The addition of the webline seems so controversial, but again, why? God forbid if it wasn't for the webline, I wouldn't enter a single stealth encounter. And the webline just feels like a very obvious thing that Spider-Man should have in his arsenal. It's pretty much the same stealth as the previous games, but you just don't have impact web and trip mines. I'm just gonna move on because I just don't really care for stealth. Wouldn't be a Spider-Man game if we didn't have an entire selection of Spider-Man suits to go through. And you know what? For the most part, a lot of these suits are really cool. But I would be crazy not to mention that almost 30 of Peter's suits were cut from the first game. Most of them being the spider armor suits and suits that I genuinely didn't care for. But I'd be lying if I said I was fine with all of them being removed. Peter's selection of suits this time around is much safer with a lot less variety and more obvious choices, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. The main problem is there is no distinct suits in this game. Yeah, sure, you have the Spider-Verse Noir, which has a cool suit style, but you don't have suits like the MK to help diversify the selections. But in their place, we got movie suits, which like 70% of them don't need to be here. Excluding the Digital Deluxe Edition suits, Peter has 34 suits in this game, 13 of them being movie suits, which begs the question, why? Like, the only ones we really needed were the TASM suit, the Raimi suit, the Far From Home suit, and the No Way Home Final Swing suit. You take the rest away, we could have easily had 6 additional comic suits, because who the f*** needed the Night Monkey suit or the Iron suit? The movie suits that didn't need to be here are only here just for the fact that they're movie suits. But it's not only the movie suits that cause an issue here. For the 21 remaining suits, 4 of them are story related, which I won't count as a problem because they were needed for the narrative, but 5 of them are Insomniac originals that bring us to only 12 comic suits, which is a step down from 2018 having 17 comic suits. I'm not even gonna get into the Digital Deluxe suits because that's for another video. Like I mentioned already when I was talking about the combat, some of these suits look really goofy when using the arms, but some do have their own spider arms like the Superior, the Iron Spider MCU, and the Noir suit. A really dumb issue within the game is suits that are not symbiote based use the symbiote to parry instead of using the iron legs, which makes no sense. Another dumb issue is with Miles and the web wings, cause they just never get along. Like, I even had a glitch where the web wings turned blue when I was using the Across the Spider-Verse suit. But it's not all bad. The suits in this game are really good. The advanced suit is so juicy and sexy. The Superior suit was a suit that I've been begging for and it delivers. All the symbiote suits in my opinion are really good. The TASM 2 suit is just so notable and I almost died when I found out it was in the game. The updated Raimi suit is a gift from God and cured us from whatever this was. The Arachnite Civil War and Scarlet suits were really nice additions. The No Way Home and the Raimi Black suit were an obvious choice. But the best for last, the absolute sexy unit, that is the classic black suit. What is there not to say about this suit that hasn't already been said? The game also includes suit styles which are really cool and add a nice layer to customization. But I can't help but find it funny that the fourth style is just the most bootleg looking one, like something out of the Avengers games. It's still cool that customization like this is in the game, and honestly, I can't wait to see what Insomniac does with the suit customizations in the next game. Maybe add a webwing customization option, maybe give us the ability to make our own spider suit. Overall, the suits get a poggers out of 10 in my opinion. 25 minutes into this video and I'm finally getting to the biggest thing when it comes to this game, the story. The story has always been something hard to talk about. Hell, even writing the script for it was a pain. But I feel like if I'm gonna talk about the story, I should talk about how I felt when I first played it without the influence of other opinions and another playthrough. My first playthrough of the game genuinely couldn't have been any better. It felt like a rush of joy, moment after moment, scream after scream, shock after shock. It truly couldn't have been better. Like, this was my reaction to pretty much everything going on in the story. I was having the time of my life playing and streaming this game. But then when it was done and I finally reinstalled Twitter to see how everyone was feeling, I expected everyone to be on the agreement that this game was an absolute banger and another hit for Insomniac, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. And after scrolling through Twitter and watching so many reviews, I thought to myself, am I missing something? So I booted up the game again, and how do I feel after finishing it again? Well, let's get into it. No one better to start with than the main character himself. Just to talk about Peter in this game, we have to go back to him in the first game. Peter in the first game is a person who put himself second and the city first. He never cared for his own problems, and the first cutscene is a great example of that. He has a decision to pay his rent or go after Fisk, and he decides to go for Fisk. Peter struggles to find balance between his duties as Spider-Man and his personal relationships. He often prioritizes saving lives in the moment over his long-term well-being. This conflict becomes more and more clear in Spider-Man 2 when he loses his job while trying to stop Sandman instead of focusing on his own stability. Even after everything that just went down, Peter doesn't stop to think, maybe I should go back to work so I don't get fired. Instead, he puts others before himself and puts unnecessary responsibilities on himself, even though Miles is there and can take care of the aftermath while Peter gets back to work. One thing I really like is this conversation that Peter and Miles have after the Sandman attack.
Man, you think he's mad at me?
Stress masquerades as anger sometimes. Just keep looking for people to help.
No, you sound like you're angry.
I'm not angry, Miles. Just focused.
That's what my mom always says when she's angry.
Come on. You've known me for a long time. When have you ever seen me angry?
I'm thinking.
It was a rhetorical question.
Got it. That one time we were playing a board game at your place and you kept losing.
I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at the universe.
I really like this because it does a really good job of foreshadowing the events that will unfold later in the story, but more importantly, it tells us the emotions that Peter has been holding in, and those emotions will be shown to us later on. But I also do wish the game did this a little more. For example, maybe allowing the woman at the Coney Island mission to die would have done wonders for the story in my opinion, and would have given the symbiote Peter a great boost of rage against KRAVEN and his hunters. But after this big bombastic set piece with Sandman, we get back to Peter on the ground at May's house, where everything is presented to us and nothing has to be said, because it's clear Peter is a mess, overwhelmed with his work-life balance and how everything leads back to him being Spider-Man. Even after Peter loses his job, he still tells MJ that he might want to take a break from work. But it's very clear in this mission that Peter is holding on to the loss of both May and Ben.
Oh man. It's you like a rogue wave sometimes. Don't worry, May. I'll keep your wheat cake recipe alive and well.
Then we get a beautiful cutscene with May which sets up Peter's journey for the game, trying to find balance. Balance is the big message of the game. How do you balance being a hero and a worker? How do you balance the power and the responsibility? That's what the game tells us, but I wish it's what it showed us. There are definitely enough moments in the story where it's told to us, but I wish it was shown to us. For example, dive deeper into Peter's feelings once he finds out he needs to take the suit off, or when he's told that he has to kill Harry. Moments like these would have really pushed that message of, I have this power, but what do I do with it? If I take off the suit, the city will be safer, but I'll be weaker. If I kill Harry, the city will be saved, but I'll lose another person I loved. But moving on, we finally get introduced to Harry Osborn, who is the main focus of this story besides obviously Peter. Harry is a very interesting character in this game because yes, he might be the rich boy, but he doesn't care. All he cares about is healing the world, which he can't do without Peter by his side. Peter is given a job opportunity that is so perfect that it might be too good to be true. But after a moment of struggling with balance, Peter is hesitant to join with Harry. But why? Everything seems perfect, right? Well, everything goes back to balance. It's very clear that Peter doesn't want to let Harry down, but he can't do that because Spider-Man keeps on interfering. Even while touring around the area, Spider-Man was still getting involved.
Now, do you know the...
Hang on.
You're a popular guy.
Sorry, it's just my tutoring job.
But Peter is not only afraid of letting Harry down, but he's afraid of letting May down too. May has always been Peter's driving force. She's the reason he pushes himself to insane limits as Spider-Man. Her death is the reason Peter works as hard as he does. May now becomes the reason he also joins with Harry.
Man. Harry. This is all so amazing. It's perfect, really. It's just... Things are really hectic right now.
Come on. Let's make my mom and May proud, huh?
It's amazing. But there's one thing. Can I move my desk over there? I like to face the wall when I work.
Harry. For the first time in a very long time, Peter has hope that it might actually work out for him. Everything is going great for Peter. He has a great job. His best friend is back, and now a job with his best friend who also has powers and can work with him. Peter is genuinely on top of the world, but just like Icarus, Peter flew too close to the sun.
Not as venomous as they say.
Sorry. I was always so busy.
Come on. Pete, come on, this is nothing. Remember in 5th grade when you... No. No. You gotta stay awake, buddy.
Pete!
No!
Peter dies, and in his final moments, all he can do is apologize, just like he's been doing for the last few years. But when all hope is lost, this happens.
What happened?
For the first time in the entire story, the symbiote is showing its rage, and I'd like to interpret this as the symbiote spent so much time with Harry that it took all the emotions it had, including the love he had for Peter, so when Peter gets the suit, it allows him to get angry and enjoy the power he's been given. This is genuinely the beginning of not only Peter's downfall, but the start of his addiction. The effects of this addiction are instantly noticeable in the very next mission.
The hunters were nuts. Can't believe the suit listened to me. I wish my suit had a neural interface like this. I could work with Harry, do the hero gig, and take a vacation all at once.
Peter is now taking a liking to this suit because it offers him things his previous suit couldn't. But not all the offers it brings are good, because as Peter is leaving, the anger the symbiote and Peter hold take over.
That was fun. That wasn't me. You should ice that.
Peter almost killed someone, but this isn't the only time a host has tried to kill someone. Harry allowed the symbiote to learn what that emotion of wanting to kill someone is. The symbiote learned and it amplified.
Always so busy.
The next part of the story is when Peter no longer believes the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." Peter starts to lose himself and begins to regress as a character. He pushes his morals away, but even worse, he pushes the people he loves away.
Everyone, take cover! What are you guys doing? Trying to take out that gunship! Can't get close enough! I can. I'm one of them, remember? Bro, that's it! Pete! Alley-oop on three! Punch! One, two, three! Alley!
Let's go, man, before he gets too far.
No. He's mine.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
I'm sure he was just trying to help.
Sometimes it's just easier to do things myself.
Hey, that's not fair, Pete. We're a team.
We just really need Connors right now. For Harry.
Okay. Let me know when you find him.
Peter now has all the power, but none of the responsibility. He shows no care for the things he's doing. He throws a civilian, he doesn't care. He yells at MJ, he doesn't care. But Peter's true breaking point is when he faces the lizard.
Fine. If I have to hurt you, I will. You're too weak to get control back, aren't you? I'm gonna have to punch you out myself! No wonder your family left you! They're scared of you! And you know it! I can't do this forever! I'm not even doing this for me! Harry needs you! You remember him? Time for your medicine.
Knows you. Which means it's more dangerous than I could have imagined. We need to call Oscorp. We need to destroy it.
Destroy us? You said it chose me, Doc. It makes me a better Spider-Man.
Side note, why does Connors say we call it a symbiote? Like the word symbiote doesn't already exist. This reveal for the symbiote being an alien doesn't work as well as they would hope, because the game constantly refers to the symbiote as the suit or the self-learning exosuit, but obviously as fans, we know it's just the symbiote. But it also just doesn't work, because before the reveal, the abilities are literally called symbiote abilities. The addiction of the symbiote begins to take over. All of Peter's morals are gone. Everything he cares for no longer means anything. And it becomes very clear in this moment.
MJ.
I'd like to interpret this line as the first half of Peter's subconscious trying to help MJ, but the second half is the symbiote trying to hurt MJ. Throughout the entirety of this mission, the symbiote has been warning MJ to stay away, because I believe the symbiote understands that Peter loves her, so the suit doesn't try to hurt her, but MJ kept on pushing the suit until she pushed it too far off the edge. This is one problem I have with this story. A handful of moments in the story are up to interpretation. Nothing is actually fully said by the story, which can be annoying because different interpretations by different people can affect opinions on this story, and it's never clear what Insomniac wanted to say in those moments. Peter no longer fears losing anyone because he constantly pushes them away for several hours. Like, literally the game shows you that MJ called him at 9:46 a.m. and he finally goes to see her at 4 p.m. Peter has now reached a point where the suit means more to him than the people he loves. He pushes everyone away for the sake of power.
Hey, buddy. How you feeling?
I need that suit back.
Pete. What do you remember about last night?
I just remember feeling tired.
Pete. You're not yourself. That suit is changing you.
This suit is the only reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, it's pretty great, isn't it?
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you really feel?
Hey, don't.
I'm busting my ass out there trying to save you, and this is what I get?
I said don't.
I saw your story.
I tried to tell you about that.
Yeah, but you didn't, did you?
I can't lose this job,
Your
Pete.
job is to write the truth.
I did.
The truth is, I'm the hero here, not you.
Are you okay?
Go. Please.
Harry.
I said to leave!
I really wish this moment here of Norman got more development, because it's such an afterthought that I genuinely forgot it was in the game until I was writing the script for this video. Norman as a character in this game is much more forgettable and has barely any screen time, which is a big missed opportunity. I would have loved more interactions between him and Harry, and how Harry's sickness is taking a toll on him. The mission Anything Can Be Broken truly lives up to its name. Peter is so far gone that he has one of his own villains giving him advice that he was given by Peter in the first game. This all leads up to a confrontation with KRAVEN, which is not the symbiote breaking point, but Peter's breaking point. When Peter sees what KRAVEN has done to Miles, he can no longer hold it in anymore, and he can no longer be the hero. Peter breaks KRAVEN down and gets to a point where he's about to kill him, but luckily Miles comes in.
fixed everything! How? By strangling him? That's not what we do!
Don't try to mentor me! You're the one running away from your problems! You're the one hell-bent on revenge!
Revenge? All I wanted was to protect my family! Protect you!
You're not better than me!
I'm not saying that! You're stronger than some suit, Pete! Don't listen to it!
And what? Listen to you?
Yes! Listen to me!
I need this suit! It makes me a better Spider-Man! You just want it for yourself!
All I want is to save you!
I'm the hero! I don't get saved! I'm the hero here, not you. Why are you doing this? I made you! You owe me!
I know you don't mean that!
All I wanted was to save everyone! MJ! Man! Now the city thinks that I'm the problem! You think I'm the problem? But I'm not anymore! I'm the solution! I can't let this go! I'm finally everything everyone needs me to be!
Yeah? You don't even answer my calls anymore, man! And what about MJ? You could have killed him! I know you're hurting, Pete! But you're better than this!
I know, but... No.
The people in my life, they keep dying. I blame myself for that. They needed a hero, and if I thought some suit could save them, maybe I'd be in your shoes now. Power is the reason they're gone. Not you, not me.
Shut up!
You gotta be stronger than that. This time, you have to save yourself.
Can't!
You will, Pete. Come on, man. Just focus on me. Come on! I'm stronger than this.
Peter vs. Miles is something we have been asking for since day one, and it absolutely delivered. But after the fight, Peter takes off the symbiote and he's back to normal, free of the power, but now has to take up the responsibility. But what happens when you're given the power and the responsibility? And I believe that's what the anti-venom represents, the duality between good and bad. Let's discuss the contrasting designs between the anti-venom suit and the symbiote suit. Both designs showcase black and white color schemes, with black symbolizing darkness, death, and power, while white represents purity, light, and new beginnings. When we examine the symbiote suit, we see Peter cloaked in black, reflecting the suit's corrupting power. However, the white emblem hints at a glimmer of purity within, suggesting that redemption is still possible despite all the corruption. The anti-venom suit, with Peter dressed in all white and a black emblem, symbolizes his integration of his shadow self. All the repressed aspects of himself have been brought to light, making him more complete. But Peter, even after given everything that he needs in a situation like this, is still faced with a hard choice, having to kill his best friend. But skipping to the end of the game, Peter is forced to kill Harry, but Miles brings him back, but he's pretty much dead, with the chances of him waking up being very slim. But Peter, by the end of the story, learns to balance his work and life, and even hands the reins to Miles for a bit while he focuses on his work, which I don't know how to feel about this ending, but I'll touch more on it during the end of the video. But overall, I really enjoyed Peter's arc in this game. My biggest problem with it is that there's no time. Peter didn't have the symbiote for nearly enough time. In my opinion, even though I really love what they did with him in the suit, I think they missed by not having more missions and more interactions between him and Miles. But I still overall really enjoyed what they did with the character. But let's take a break from Peter and get onto some of his villains. Just like the first game, Kraven is the villain for the first half of the game. And you know what? I can't even hold it in. Kraven is so amazing in this game. Kraven is a dying man whose only wish is to die doing what he lives against a worthy opponent. Kraven's thirst for a worthy opponent leads him down a big list of Peter's old villains. Villains who get brutally murdered by Kraven with ease. Now, I will say this is my only complaint with the character because it's said to us that he killed all of Peter's villains, even a deleted throne in the game with all their heads, but it's never shown to us. We only ever get told that Kraven killed these villains. I've seen people online say it doesn't make him cool because Vulture is a dying man, Scorpion was a weak villain, and Rhino is just a strong guy, and that Shocker is just a bank robber. But if that's a logic you want to use, that means we can say that Insomniac Spider-Man is a weak hero since he only beat a dying man and a bank robber. But as the plot goes on, Kraven grows more and more disappointed until...
MJ, I'm on my way.
What are you? Trek the lizard. The spider is mine.
I love how Kraven's ideology is that there are no good people, only good prey. He doesn't see these people as people worth. He doesn't care that Connors has a wife and kid. He only sees the beast within Connors. I love how it also goes against Peter and Miles' ideology. They see the good in people and want to help them and believe the bad can be fixed. This line that Kraven tells Peter at the chapel sums it up. Kraven only sees a hunt. Kraven having this belief that he must carry on his ancestors' tradition by continuing the hunt is executed with brilliance here. It only makes me wish that he was just the main villain of the entire game. A man driven by his fatal disease doesn't want to go out like an ordinary man. Instead, he wants to go out... And man, hands down, Jim Carrey kills it as Kraven. His presence amplifies every moment he's in. Like, the best scenes in the game all include Kraven, because he's just the best written villain in the game. Kraven is such a menace in this game that he literally goes after reformed villains. He doesn't care if they're good people because he only cares for the beast that they hold within. Even after all the torture Kraven has caused our heroes, you're still kind of rooting for him. Us as players are rooting for his death that he's so badly wishing for, and it's finally granted to him in a beautiful moment where he faces an opponent whose body has also rejected him. Kraven's role in the story is yes used to fill the first half, but to me he stole the entire game. He's easily the best written villain in the game, and again it makes me wish he was the main villain of the entire game. But speaking of main characters, let's move on to our other protagonist. Where we last left off with Miles in his game, he finally learns how to be a hero. But in this game, he learns what it's like to be a hero. From the very start of the game, Miles is struggling to write his college essay, but it's more than a college essay. Miles is the exact opposite of Peter. Peter in this game wants to focus more on being Peter, while Miles wants to focus more on being Spider-Man. But being Spider-Man won't get his college essay done. But that's the problem. Miles doesn't know who he is. He only knows that he's Spider-Man. Miles fears letting the people around him down. When he sees the image of his dad, he apologizes to him because he knows deep down that holding off the essay is letting him down, and that the fear of failing is further explored when Miles is confronted by Scorpion.
Thanks a million, kids. But I saved you. Really?
This isn't real.
We have eyes on Scorpion.
Maybe I'm just a guy who doesn't give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
Miles.
Anything? Wait. It's not safe. Miles.
It's so peaceful without Miles. Now that you're Spider-Man, I don't have to worry anymore. None of us have to die.
Don't let anything happen to you.
Time's running out, Leo.
Huh?
But Miles then confronts the embodiment of his fear, which is Martin Lee. The death of Miles' dad hit him as hard as May's death hit Peter. The parallel in this moment of Miles can either go after Lee or help the civilians feels very similar to Peter's choice in the first game. He can either save May or save the people. Miles is so lost in Martin Lee that all he's worried about is the safety of his family. But Peter, who's been in his shoes before, reassures and tries to redirect his focus on more important things in his life. Everyone in Miles' life is constantly telling him to let go of Lee. Even his own mother tells him not to let Lee get a hold on him. But Lee is already so far into Miles' head that Miles sees him in his dream, which is meant to be his happy place. But one thing that is present in all these moments is that Spider-Man is in all of them. Miles is forced to be Spider-Man even when he's having a conversation with his mom. It doesn't help that Peter hasn't talked to him since he's gotten himself wrapped up with everything going on with Harry. With Peter not around to help Miles, all he can think about is Lee. Even with his college essay, which Miles doesn't care for at the moment because he's focused on Lee. He even contemplates ignoring the city because he wants to focus on Lee alone. Miles' social life and hero life have finally met at a crossroad, and this becomes very clear here. In a moment with Haley, he's forced to mask up to help Peter with Lizard, but just like everyone else, Haley reminds him that some people need Miles too, not just Spider-Man. When Miles and Peter finally work together again, Miles has hope that he can finally get back to work with Peter, but he's left in the same spot he was in when he first started the mission. Hell, it might even be in a worse spot now because Peter no longer wants Miles' help. And once the symbiote takes control of Peter and Miles tries to help, this happens.
Spider-Man! It's me!
Peter and Miles from this moment on are separated not just as friends but also physically because Miles gets captured by KRAVEN and taken to his mansion. And when Miles wakes up, he finally has to face his fear not only physically but mentally. All the people that Miles once listened to get away from Lee are in his head tormenting him. But Miles finally gets a hold of reality and remembers the words of his uncle to let go of Lee. He remembers his mom's words of not letting things serve him. He remembers Peter's words of reassurance. But more importantly, he remembers his father's words. Miles finally realizes that he has been holding himself back and finally learns to push himself forward instead of backwards. Miles lets go of Lee, and instead of killing him like he said he would, he instead helps him escape. As Peter regresses, Miles goes forward. But what happens when these two come together again? Well, Peter finally faces his addiction and takes off the suit with the help of Miles, even though I would have loved a much longer version of Peter trying to struggle taking off this suit, something similar to the Spectacular Spider-Man show, where we go into Peter's head. But now, we must face the biggest villain of this game. Mary Jane Watson. MJ in this game wants nothing more than success, with everything that she's doing. At the start of the game, MJ is struggling to make a change because everything around her is stopping her. When KRAVEN first arrives in the city, MJ believes it's her shot to finally get the city to notice her after multiple attempts, but just like everyone else in this game, it's not so easy. But why is that? Well, it's because of J. Jonah Jameson, the man running the bugle. Side rant, please, for the love of God, can we turn Jameson into an actual good character? Hating Spider-Man is not his only character strength, if you want to call it that. Why not dive deeper into the comics? Try that one run where Jameson becomes friends with Spider-Man and actually tries to help him. These games run up to 30 hours. You have more than enough time. Some people find this stupid because Danicast is basically that, but no, she really isn't. Danicast in this game is a character who treats us like we're brain-dead viewers who just don't know anything going on with the story. Like, seriously, how the hell did you even know what happened at the EMF? Like, seriously, how the hell? Her voice lines before were nice to listen to because they actually somewhat contribute to the story, but here they're brain-dead recaps of missions you just played. Again, keyword that you just played, and then she comes in and she's like, Spider-Man is finally back to his classic suit. Like, how the hell did you even know that? Forget Screwball, Danicast is the real villain. Alright, where were we? Alright, MJ. MJ has a choice. She can always live in the shadow of these other reporters, or she can give into Jameson's request. And what does she pick? Well, she picks Jameson, and I've seen discourse online like, oh my god, character assassination, how could she? First off, calm down. Second off, are you guys this dense? It's been stated multiple times that MJ cannot lose this job, and that things financially are getting rough for both Peter and herself. So for the sake of her and Peter's well-being, she posts this article that scores her an editor position. And don't forget, she was literally gonna show Peter this article before he went all Sith on her. People who call this a character assassination are just people who want to join the hate train for this character because they have nothing better to do. Even after Peter has been a complete ass to her, she still tries to be there for him, even calling him before he fights KRAVEN, but Peter doesn't pick up. But also, even MJ gets a promotion she isn't happy about, because she had to do it the wrong way. She had to give in to Jameson's request, but that doesn't mean she meant what she wrote. She was just forced on to do this, just like the symbiote was forced onto her during the Scream boss fight, which is where we finally get the truth from MJ. And yeah, sure, some of you can say that wasn't MJ, it was the symbiote. Yeah, sure, the symbiote had to do a lot with the fact that she got angry, but that doesn't mean she didn't have these thoughts deep down. Just like Peter, all the symbiote did was amplify her thoughts, but the symbiote comes off of her and she finally realizes that she can no longer be held by Jameson. At the start of the game, she wanted to make a change on the inside, but by the end of the game, she learned to make a change on the outside. Well, actually, now that we're on that topic, I have to talk about it. MJ's new face model. I honestly didn't think this would get as controversial as it did, but we live in a world where we harass actors so badly to the point where they quit their job. I wish I was joking when I said that, and honestly, what the hell? People seriously harass this poor woman for the fact that she wasn't quote-unquote hot? Really? Is this really where we are in humanity now? And it's the same because I actually like this model much more than the old one, mainly because of the fact that this version of the character is written better than the first game. Seriously, screw every single one of you who even harassed this poor woman to think that she was probably so excited to play such a famous character along with the biggest superhero in the world. Makes it even sadder. I hope the actress rethinks her decision and comes back because she was surely in my eyes the better MJ. Not only was she better written, but her gameplay is leagues above in this game. Now obviously when we look at this compared to this, it's not much. But when we compare this and this, good God Almighty, this might be bigger than the innovation of the light bulb. MJ no longer feels like a damsel. She doesn't get killed off at first sight by any enemy now. It's crazy to think how small changes like adding a sprint and dodge button can make something so bad into something so good. There are only 3 MJ missions compared to the first game's 6 missions, and some of the biggest story moments happen during these missions. So I'm happy that Insomniac managed to make these changes. Is it insanely better now? No, not really. But are they enjoyable? Absolutely. The pacing of the missions also feels so much better. It's no longer a don't get caught mission, it's now an action shooter, and that becomes especially clear in the last mission of the game. It's crazy seeing how this sonic blaster could solve all of Peter and Miles' problems, but they just gotta pretend that it doesn't exist. The second MJ mission is by far my favorite of the three. A lot of that has to do with the fact with what was happening at the moment during the story, but it also has to do with the fact that we get to use a web shooter during the mission. I dare you to give me some MJ combat. I dare you. But hey, I gotta respect Insomniac. They could have easily removed these missions, but instead they decided to prove on their mistakes. So well done, Insomniac. Well, not all of their mistakes. Venom in this game is really interesting, and we can't really talk about him without talking about his host, Eddie Brock. Oh wait. Oh, alright. Harry Osborn. Who is Harry Osborn in this game? Well, he's pretty much who you'd expect. He's Peter's childhood best friend that shares similar hopes of healing the world. Harry's friendship with Peter is done really well in this game. Their friendship doesn't feel and look fake at all. In fact, it feels like they're brothers who love each other no matter the situation. Even though sometimes it can feel a little forced, these two are the utmost of friends. Harry in general is just a great guy. Even before finding out Peter is Spider-Man, he's willing to help him.
For high altitude weather sensors.
And this startup gave us permission?
Yes. I checked with the head guy. Super nice. Seemed excited about helping out Spider-Man.
But taking it a bit back, Harry is more than just a friend. He's a dying man that's been given a second chance at life, and he's not willing to waste it. After months of isolation in a tank with the symbiote, after months of having to deal with the nightmare, the symbiote bonds with Harry. It's unclear why the symbiote decides to bond with him, especially since it was kind of clear that the symbiote didn't want to bond with him, but I'd like to assume that the symbiote bonded with Harry because it had no choice. Either it bonds with him or it would be stuck in a tank with him forever. But once Harry is out of that tank, his idea to heal the world becomes a greater reality once he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man and that they can save the world together. That's where things take a different route in the story. Harry becomes Agent Venom and helps Peter rescue Tombstone. But after this is when the other half of Harry begins to latch onto Peter. The symbiote understands that love that Harry holds for Peter, so it tries to latch onto Peter, taking a part of him. I really like that this game kind of explores the story in the comics where the symbiote isn't bad at the start and only turns bad because of the host. And to anyone who denies this, there are two things that happen that back up my point. One, the suit never made Harry aggressive before Peter died. And even when the suit does, it's very clear that it's coming from the host. And the suit is only amplifying those emotions. Further evidence to back this up is Peter himself says that the suit knows how he likes to fight.
Hey, Pete. Any luck?
No KRAVEN yet. I think I know where he is.
How's the suit?
Weird. It's like it knows me. Don't worry, buddy. I'll take care of everything. Promise.
Harry and Peter changed the symbiote as much as it changed them. The sequence alone proves it.
No!
This feels not great. I was always so busy.
Don't.
No!
What happened? MJ, get him out of here. I'll handle this.
Come on here.
But once Harry no longer has the suit, he begins to go in a downward spiral. And I love the parallel between Harry and Peter here. Peter's downfall begins when he gets the suit, but Harry's downfall begins when he no longer has the suit. With the suit gone, Harry's health goes on the decline, but more importantly, to him, his plan to heal the world is put on pause, and it makes him feel useless. Harry can no longer achieve what he wants because he no longer has the suit. The EMF is the only hope that Harry has in healing the world, but once that's also taken away from him, he has nothing else left other than his hope that his best friend can save him before time reaches up to him. I love that Harry and Peter have different views on the EMF being destroyed. Harry sees his vision has completely crumbled and he can no longer do anything, but he's slowly dying. But Peter still believes in their vision because he isn't dying like Harry and can continue to save the world at his own pace. This is further shown when Peter calls Harry before he fights the lizard.
Harry, you're alive. I haven't heard from you in a while.
I'm close to finding Dr. Connors. As soon as I stick him with the antidote, this suit's coming right back to you.
Okay. Let me know when you find him.
It's clear now that Harry has no hope left within. He's mentally and physically broken and just waiting for his time to be over. Harry's life no longer becomes a priority for Peter even after curing Connors. His only duty is towards the suit and not his loved ones. At a final attempt of hope, Harry asks Peter for the suit back, but Peter would rather put the suit in front of his loved ones. He further treasures himself to keep the suit because Norman is working on a new cure that shows no hope. The thing that makes this even worse for Harry is that he's never told that the suit is changing Peter. Like I've stated, the suit amplifies the host's thoughts, so when Harry had the suit, he never changed it like Peter did. Harry was so full of joy and excitement because he was able to do what he wants alongside his friend. So when he sees Peter acting like this, he's just seeing his best friend being a massive dick to him. This sense of abandonment that Harry feels towards Peter is further shown once Connors calls him.
We need to remove the symbiote. The hold that it's already taking on your mind, it's only going to get worse.
I'm busy.
Harry has been rejected once again by Peter. Even after Peter takes the suit off, Harry still feels like his friend is abandoning him. And what happens when you mix Harry's mutual feeling of abandonment with the symbiote?
Harry, are you? Oh, God.
Like I've stated, this version of Venom is really interesting in this game. Starting with the positives, Venom's design is really cool in this game. He's animated brilliantly and his voice is just too perfect, and you get to play as him for the first time since 2005. But his story, on the other hand, like I said, his story is interesting. This mission really gave me a lot of hope for this character because there are moments that I really love in this mission. For starters, I love how Venom gets mad once Norman mentions Peter showing his hatred towards him now.
And so does Peter.
And two, just the entire fight against KRAVEN, which is just wow. But after that, the symbiote gives Harry a twisted version of his desire to heal the world, which is where the cracks begin to show themselves. Because if you look at it very close, then you're looking at Web of Shadows, but there's an actual explanation of why the alien invasion happened. But it pisses me off that this is the route they went towards, because you don't need to do this for a good Venom story. A good example of that is Ultimate Spider-Man, the game, to be clear, not the show. Alright, we don't talk about the show around these parts. An alien invasion to make Venom an interesting character. He was just an interesting character on his own. The whole alien invasion is not a bad idea. It's just not executed perfectly here. Because to be honest, it's such an afterthought in the game's plot. Like, we only spend one mission in the symbiote infected city before the game ends. I like the idea of it in this game, but the execution, not so much. Now, before the alien invasion, we get this moment at May's house that I really enjoy. Harry being rejected by Peter even though he has the power to fulfill their dreams is something I wish the story went deeper into. Cause yes, Harry can technically heal the world, but it's not the right way. And Peter even says this.
All he needed was that meteorite. Now he can heal the world. This isn't what we meant.
The symbiote and Harry are no longer going to take shit from Peter, which is why I sorta like this moment of Harry saying,
"We are not, Harry. We are."
Even though this moment's not executed as well here, it still kind of works for the most part. But I will say I really do like this line from Harry. He turns MJ into Scream to show him the power he's missing, and it's further emphasized once Peter and Harry fight.
It's messing with your head, Harry! You're my best friend! Then why don't you trust us?
We gave you everything you ever wanted, and you threw us away.
I should have been better! I'm so sorry!
You replaced us with vials. We poisoned you against us even more.
No! He saved me! Just like I'll save you!
In general, I think Venom has really cool moments in this game. Like this one with Norman where Tony Todd just sends shivers down my spine.
Please. Just give me back my son. We are your son. Look at us. We are healthy, strong. This is what you wanted, isn't it?
But they're just moments. It's sad that we didn't get enough of it. Tony himself said that they cut almost 90% of his lines, which is a real shame because his game desperately needed more Venom. And if I even see one person say, well, maybe they're saving them from the Venom game, that makes zero sense. Why the hell would they record lines for a game that they didn't even know was being made? And even if they did, what does this game's narrative have to do with his own game? After Harry's last attempt of trying to get Peter to join him, we finally have the long-awaited Venom boss, and oh boy, where do I start? Well, for starters, it's not bad. It's definitely better than all the bosses in Spider-Man PS4. But god damn it, man, we were so robbed. Where was this in the game? Like, you even made a full ad that probably took a lot of time to make that showcased this, but it's never seen once in the game? Seriously? Look, again, this boss is not bad. We get the classic showdown at Midtown High, but again, I can't help but feel disappointed because we were promised so much better, but instead we got this. This boss is only really saved because of Tony and Yuri's acting, which is through the roof. Like, just listen to this.
It's messing with your head, Harry! You're my best friend! Then why don't you trust us?
Look, I still found the boss pretty enjoyable and engaging, but it's so disappointing when leaked footage of pre-release demos show that they were meant to fight in multiple locations, and we just get this. Not only do we get this, but Peter only fights him once, then he pieces out for the entire fight. Like, yeah, sure, there were really cool moments in the boss, like Venom getting wings that made me almost died when I first saw it, but it means nothing to the story. It's just iconic iconography. And oh my god, I just remembered the meteorite. An hour into this video and I finally mentioned the main driving force for Venom. And that's all it is in the game. A meteorite, nothing more and nothing less. This is a part of the story where you can tell Insomniac really wanted to delve deeper into it, but Sony realized that there were no exclusives coming out in 2023 and just forced Insomniac to release the game. But after Venom gets wings, Venom and Miles fight in one of the most questionable matchups ever. And what I mean by that is that these two literally have only met and / talked to each other maybe 3 times before their fight. First at Coney Island, second when Harry calls him, and finally when Miles sees Venom for the first time. And the game has you sitting here thinking that they can trick you and trying to feel something for them, but you just don't. This entire fight feels so pointless and feels like it was here for the sake of having Miles here because the game is so determined on trying to get you to like Miles more than Peter, and it becomes very clear in this boss fight. But at this point in the story, Venom has basically taken over Harry, like, to the point where Harry is confused on where he is. And again, this is where my problems with Venom come in. He has so many interesting things and I really do like him, but he also has the least interesting version of the character. But I also can't help but feel the potential in his character. The last few moments between him and Harry are so heartbreaking that it honestly saddens me that we don't get more time with this character. I see a lot of people saying that Eddie should have been Venom in this game, but thank God he wasn't. The story Insomniac were trying to tell would have his character so much. Playing the game again on New Game Plus really made me wish Insomniac dived deeper into the Spider-Man lore. Like, surprisingly, they picked the least interesting version of the character, which is just an evil goop monster who wants to take over the world. Insomniac could have picked a version of the character that hasn't been explored much in recent media, like maybe making him the Psycho Stalker, watching Peter everywhere he goes. Can you imagine how cool it would have been to find Venom watching you while you're swinging around the city? The potential is genuinely endless with this concept. Or they could have gone down the Ultimate Spider-Man route and made him the dark reflection of Peter, which the game kind of does with the whole "this isn't what I meant by healing the world," but it isn't explored enough to be that version of the character. And it breaks my heart to say this, but Venom in this game is not an original character. It's just the Ultimate show / comic, plus the TASM 2 dying Harry plot, plus the Web of Shadows alien invasion mixed together. The potential was there for the character. The moments that shine truly do shine for him, but I can't help but feel like the writers didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know if they wanted to make him an evil goop monster or a deep emotional character that goes against our hero's ideology. Insomniac's Venom is not the Venom we wanted, but in my books, it's certainly not the worst we have seen of the character. Now this section of the video is mainly about nitpicks and problems I had with the game, so let's get into it. The appearance of the symbiote suit changing to show the hold it has on Peter is really weird on this game, mainly because I've seen this idea executed much better in the Spectacular Spider-Man show. That show was the first adaptation to have the suit progress in design as Peter continues to change. In that show, because the suit started out as a black recolor of the classic suit, its transformations feel much more believable. Because it starts very similar to Peter's original suit, then slowly transforms into the classic black suit in the comics. But what I'm trying to say is that the difference between Peter's normal suit and this one is that it's more believable. But in this game, Peter shifts into his classic black suit, which is now a random design that holds no meaning because Peter gets it as soon as he gets the symbiote. But then Heart shifts into its next design, which I get is used to symbolize that Peter is turning into Venom. But the shift to this design is so questionable because, like, how did we go from this to this? And this is just one of the game's main problems, is that a lot of things have no time. We don't spend nearly enough time with Peter in the symbiote yet to justify this switch in design, which again brings up the question, what was the original plan for this game? Because we now know the game got a hard reboot by Sony in 2021, and it's very clear many things from the original pitch made their way here, because those ideas are, yes, good, but are so rushed here. And it's a real shame, because just like a lot of things in this game, the concepts all had so much potential, but just never had the time to show their full potential. If you thought I'd go through this entire video without shitting on this, then you'd be wrong, my friend. Skip to this timestamp if you want to avoid going blind. Can we talk about his hair? Why the would Miles show his hair? It's made very clear in a side mission that Miles is the only one with that haircut.
How's business at the barbershop?
Booming, my friend. How you liking those locks?
Why would he also add a hood to it but not wear it? That's like wearing a mask inside but not outside. What if a strand of his hair falls out and they get his DNA from it? What if someone tugs him by the hair in a fight? What if his hair catches fire because it has no heat resistance at all like the suit part has? It's impractical as and offers no benefit other than the exaggerated swagger of a black teen and actively just makes the costume worse. This shit was as bad as Uncle Aaron's beats, and we know how bad those were. This shit looks like one of the suits the Avengers game would stare you dead in the eyes and make you pay $20 for. Hell, no, you know what? It. It actually looks worse than all the suits the Avengers game offers. This game stares you dead in the eyes and tells you to buy shoes worth a kidney. Why does Miles have blue toothpaste running down his arms and legs? Colgate Optic Blue looking ass. This shit is so tragic, it cost him Game of the Year.
And the Game of the Year is Baldur's Gate 3.
Like literally me and Peter had the exact same reaction to this shit coming on screen.
What the fuck are you wearing?
Also, when the hell did Miles have time to do all of this? Did he make this suit while KRAVEN kidnapped him? If he did, no wonder it turned out looking like shit. Alright, I think that's enough for now. Keyword for now, this suit has a special place in hell for what it did. This is a weird nitpick, but why does this game have Venom written in the subtitles before he's even called Venom? Like, the game makes it very clear that it's a big moment when he calls himself that, but is just undermined when he's already called Venom in the subtitles. Like, they easily could have just written Harry, but I guess that slipped through their minds. Why is this the post-credit scene? Like, really, Silk? Have they learned nothing from their own game? We seriously do not need to redo this again. It's just going to be the same thing, but most likely Miles mentoring her this time. I have some hope in Insomniac because they've turned weak written characters in comics into some of the best versions we've seen. But I just hope it's not the mentor-mentee type shit all over again. Please, do something different. Like, have her already being Spider-Woman. Maybe say that she has a piece of the symbiote that she stole from the invasion. Even though they got all destroyed, you can come up with some reason, especially because we see not all the symbiotes have been destroyed. Look, anything works as long as it's not her comic origin or the goofy shit with Miles. If there's one thing I'll take away from this game, is that Insomniac seriously needs to change the way they write their villains. I'm begging you on my hands and knees not to do the, oh, but he's my best friend. Oh no, what did I do? Please, for the love of God, try something different. Even if it turns out to be shit, do something different. I'll be amazed if somehow this happens in the third game, especially because it looks like Norman is shaping up to be the Green Goblin. But there's a possibility because Otto is showing up, but I'm praying that he actually saves the story. If you haven't noticed, I really haven't mentioned the Lizard much, and that's because the game never really uses him effectively. He's just a punching bag for symbiote Peter to wail on. The game never tried to do something interesting with him. They tried to include his family. It really isn't used enough to make you care though. I wish there was more to his character than just something for our main character to grow from. You know what? Forget Venom. This game's true villain is time. Nothing in this game had nearly enough time to sink in, especially that third act. And it doesn't help that the game has this problem where a character having a chat with someone can count as a full mission. Like, seriously, going to meet up with Uncle Aaron counted as a full mission? We don't get nearly enough time with Harry as Agent Venom in this game that, like, I'm pretty sure some of you didn't know that you can find him in the open world because the game has him for only 2 missions before Peter gets the suit. New Game Plus being added 6 months later is crazy to me, but hey, at least it's better than Crunch, right? Alright, side content. Not the strongest aspect of 2018, but we were definitely getting somewhere with Miles Morales. I think this game is almost there. For starters, street crimes have gotten a small update. We have 2 new changes. We have the addition of the flame crimes, which are basically stopping burning buildings or vehicles. The second one is rescuing an injured civilian. Notice how I said civilian and not civilians, because it's literally the same goddamn guy every time, him and his stupid ass headphones. They've also made car chases much less interactive now, which I don't mind, I guess, but I can see why people are unhappy about it. One thing I really like about the crimes in this game is that a lot of times you'll find all the enemy factions in the game fighting each other, which makes the street crimes a joy to go through a lot of times. Enemy bases have also been significantly reduced in this game to only have one type of base, the hunter bases, and it seems like Insomniac didn't like the previous game's base system, which was basically beat a continuous wave of enemies for a number amount of times. But before you can unlock the hunter bases, you have to go through hunter blinds, which are basically the hunters camping on a roof to get their ankles broken. But once you beat those, you unlock the bases on your map. Each completed base rewards you with a voice note from KRAVEN's family that ends with a shocking twist that KRAVEN killed his family members. But you're also rewarded with a suit, which is hit or miss depending on the person. Symbiote nests are this game's version of these things from Web of Shadows, but a little different. You must protect this bomb while the waves of symbiotes attack you, and once the timer is done, you win. I actually really enjoyed these nests because I could test my skills in them, and it's just really fun fighting all the symbiotes. Well, almost all of them. Photo ops make a return in this game, but they're also a little different. Instead of taking pictures of the city, you're taking pictures of the people within the city. The message of this entire side mission is to show the beating heart of New York. It's also the first time Robbie Robertson is shown to us in this universe, and I like the idea that Peter is doing this because he needs the spare change. It kind of gives you the sense that you have to do this for Peter. Spider bots are now the new backpacks in this game, but they're much less rewarding and end in a really underwhelming cutscene that features... Who? Oh yeah, right, the cut character from Across the Spider-Verse. What makes this even worse is that you get no reward in the end. All you get is that cutscene. In the first game, at least you were given a suit. Here, all you're given is a middle finger shoved right up your ass. Like, they couldn't even give us the Spider-Punk suit from the movie? The app makes a return in this game, but it's a little different. Certain missions are specifically for each character and others are playable for both character. Peter gets really sweet side missions where you get to play as young Peter, but my god, the Howard mission is an absolute heartbreaking one, along with Find My Grandpa, which are some of the best written side missions I've ever seen. We certainly and seriously need more of these. The research stations from the first game are basically now EMF related side missions, and they're pretty much the same, just a lot shorter and less annoying, even though like 30% of them have you playing as a bee, but hey, at least you're rewarded with a suit. Miles has his own Brooklyn Vision missions, which are well, less than stellar, but you're rewarded with a suit that kind of has me confused. How the hell do the students know that Spider-Man is half Puerto Rican? Like, seriously, how? Miles has another side mission related to a museum that gets its own main mission in the story? They're kind of fun, I guess, and you're given a fun suit as a reward. Miles also has a Prowler related collectible, which are just mid because every time you get one, Uncle Aaron calls you and just tells you something from his past. But once you finish them, you find out that he moves in the same building as Miles, and you're rewarded with the Prowler strike that I swear to you I forgot was in the game because I just never used Miles's invisibility. For Sandman, we have Marco's memories, which are pretty much like the Prowler stashes, but just a bit better because they're just written better and you actually have combat encounters, which are pretty much the same in all of them because there are only 2 types of Sandman enemies. The side quest ends with Peter apologizing to Marco and going to his daughter Kimia, who's never seen in the game, so it's really difficult to sympathize for her. The Mysterians are really interesting because I think they're really cool, but why are these specifically locked to Miles? Like, seriously, why is this the only side quest that can be replayed in the post-game and it's only locked to Miles? These are this game's challenge missions where you're given a certain task and you have to do it within a certain time, or you must do it a certain amount of times. These challenges are fairly easy, with some giving you a difficult time, but once you're done with each one, you're given an audio log of Beck and his colleagues talking. It's a shame that a game with this level of traversal has no traversal challenges. Like, give me something like an Ultimate Spider-Man where you race Johnny Storm. You can have it be Peter races Miles or the other way around depending on who you play as. Anything would be really cool because this game's traversal is heavily underused in the side content. I also really wish Miles updated Peter on the Mysteriums. Maybe they have a chat after each one and Peter talks about his first encounter with Beck and how he beat him once they first fought. But once you're done with all of them, Beck asks you to meet him at Coney Island, where you get a really cool boss fight that I found to be a lot of fun. But the twist of this mission is that it was Beck's colleague all along who were causing this. The big message of this entire side mission is that villains can be reformed, and we see a lot of that in this game with Lee, Black Cat, Tombstone, and I really like that about all of Insomniac's villains. Well, almost all of them. The only traversal challenges in this game are the unidentified target challenges, which are somewhat traversal challenges, but you're forced to use your web wings the entire time. But hey, at least it ends with a hint towards Chameleon, which I'm really excited about because he's related to KRAVEN, and KRAVEN is amazing in this game. The Flame side quest is the main side story we follow in the game that is mainly focused on the return of Yuri as the anti-hero Wraith and her ongoing investigation on a new cult. I really like that you can find the cult before you even start the side quest. It gives you more curiosity going into the side quest of like, who are these people? But this cult is run by, you guessed it, Cletus Cassidy. Wraith in this game is really interesting because I really find her dynamic interesting between her and Peter, but it doesn't feel like she has much growth. And it's also really weird how she went from doing this to now kind of being chill and just going after criminals. Cletus Cassidy in this game has me really excited because it's literally ripped right from the comics. Like, this son of a bitch burned Peter alive. It's funny how right they got Carnage but not the main villain of the game. Overall, the Flame side quest is a really fun side story that we get and has me really excited for the future of this character. Finally made it, the end of the video. This game didn't need to be perfect, but I sure wish it was. Even though there was a lot wrong with the game, I can't help but love this game, but I also don't love this game. It's really complicated. This is still a really good game. Traversal is the best it's ever been. The combat is a joy to play. The game is visually beautiful, and the performances are absolutely fantastic. If I had to give it a numerical rating of the game, it would be an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. I really did like this game's story. It weaves through many great ideas, but I can't help but feel disappointed by some of the writing. I really hope that Insomniac can take our criticism and we can all become greater together.